Hello, everyone. I'm Roger Balzer. If you're involved in a family business, either as the owner or a family member working in the business, this video is for you. Grab your favorite beverage, preferably a Great Lakes, gather your family, and settle in to complete the family blueprint. It's 12 questions that will forever change your family. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the 12 common sense questions that will lead you and your family to begin to build an exit or succession plan that is right for you. I understand this is not a sexy topic, but with what we've been through in the past 18 to 24 months, it's a very important topic. Starting a conversation about exit or succession planning is very uncomfortable. Nobody wants to think that eventually they will die, or even worse, sell their business and transfer wealth. But as a wise mentor of mine once said, all business owners are a single phone call away from oblivion. The Family Blueprint will help you start one of the most difficult yet rewarding conversations you can have. It doesn't matter if you own a farm, family restaurant, a family garage, a funeral home, an auto dealership, a construction or manufacturing company, or even a professional services firm. The themes and the complexity, it's all the same. You've got family mixed up with business, and no one knows how to separate it. These 12 questions will help you do exactly that. They are brutally hard questions. But if you can sit down with your family and get through it, family holidays, dinners, celebrations, and picnics will be more enjoyable than if you didn't ask the questions. I had one client tell me that once they went through the 12 questions, peace finally visited the family for the first time in years. These questions, they're not just for the business owner, but also the successor, whether that's a child or even a key employee. If you don't have any relatives working in the business, please use these questions with your key employee. In the questionnaire, I refer to the business owner as generation 1 and the children or key employee as generation number 2. If you have more than one child or key employee, I recommend completing the questionnaire with each one individually. Please don't do it as a group. In that case, the generation 1 questions are for the business owner and the generation 2 questions are for the key employee. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers to any of these questions. They're just simply, all they do is they create greater clarity between the generations about how and when the business will be sold or transferred. If you're contemplating as a parent gifting your operating business to a child or two, you will find value in hearing whether the succeeding generations are prepared to risk their own capital today to actually purchase the business. So let's dive in with question number 1. It's asked about the owner, who I refer to again as generation 1, and the kids or key employee referred to as generation 2. What does our family business look like in 5 years? What I'm trying to do with this question is to gently ease into the conversation. Everyone has the opportunity to answer this question. Now, if your son or daughter were to answer the question in this way, Dad, I think the business in 5 years, well, it's going to kind of like be bigger, and we'll be selling more stuff. I have a bigger office, be spending more time at the cottage, and definitely on the boat. What I would say to you, Mr. Business Owner, is I am very sorry. That's not the language of the next generation of owners. Do not proceed to question number 2. That is not the answer you want to hear. The answer you should be looking for is, wow, Mom, Dad, it's very interesting. Glad you asked that question. What is the business going to look like in 5 years? Well, if I can be honest, the first action I'd take is I'd sell the Sprocket division. It's got negative gross margin. I know it was your original product line, but it's a complete and utter disaster. Since I'm taking on senior management responsibility and I'm inheriting the current staff, that staff's just loaded with dinosaurs. I know they were your friends and they all started with you, but the reality is they're just not performing and they're expensive. I would make the tough and possibly unpopular decision, just as Michael Corleone did in The Godfather when he fired Tom Hagen as a family consigliere. Any other business by now would have restructured and moved on. So I would terminate 3 specific people. I would hire 3 other people to develop a new online marketing presence and a new sales structure. Now, the next generation, they have their own ideas, and many of those visions for the 5 years are in stark contrast to the controlling shareholder. That's not a problem. That's an opportunity. This question, it's a litmus test in a lot of ways for both parties' general level of involvement in the business and their mindset. If both parties aren't passionate about talking about it and the future of the business, then frankly, that's a sign it's time for one or both of them to potentially think about doing something else. We're on to question number 2, which is for both generations. If the owner and child are owners of the business, they own shares, are you interested in selling your stock? If yes, to whom? Now, this is a powerful question, and you can see what makes these questions so difficult is that they require yes or no answers. There's no room to dance around. Are you interested in selling your stock? Yes or no? Really, all the 12 questions are trying to do, again, is bring clarity to the relationship. This question is at the front end because I want the next generation to know that if their parent, the controlling shareholder, answers no to this question, then you're working in a business where the controlling shareholder has no interest in ever giving up control. Just not right now. There are a lot of kids that are making assumptions, like one day all this is going to be mine. Right at the second inning, the parent or controlling shareholder is being asked, are you interested in selling your stock? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, you've got a seller. As the second generation, you may enjoy your job in the family business, but now you also may have the opportunity to purchase stock in the family business. It's funny, every time I think about this question, I think about the Netflix documentary, Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's about a 90-something-year-old sushi master whose son, he's been his understudy for 50 years. The son's in his 70s. He's just waiting for dad to retire so he can be the sushi master. Yet dad, he's not ready to go. I think about how many years the son has toiled and waited. How fruitless is that going to feel at the end? This raises an interesting point because people are living longer. Business owners in Ohio, especially men, we're living longer. We're tagging on years at the end like never before. With the medical improvements in the past years, who knows where it will end? Today, you've got kids in their 60s waiting for their parents in their 80s to die. You've got succession plans where it's just being kicked on and on and on and on and on down the road. Nobody knows how to start this conversation. And not to be overly critical on lawyers and attorneys, but business owners, they've been for many years turning to 2 of their most trusted advisors and saying, what should I do with my business? I'd like to ask you a question. Put yourself in the shoes of the accountant or the attorney, and the business gets sold. What usually happens to the account or the file? Well, the accountant or attorney, they never bother to build a relationship with a kid. It goes to the kid's accountant or their attorney. There's a built-in bias by these 2 professionals. They don't want to be fired. They don't want the business to be sold or transferred. So what they do, and again, this is a sweeping generalization, there are some fantastic attorneys and accountants out there. But the majority, they go right into the playbook, the oldest worn-out page in the book, which is they suggest you do an estate freeze. Freeze the value of the common shares and then issue new preferred shares, voting shares, so mom and dad get to control the family business right down to their very, very last breath. And the children, they're working and toiling hard in the family business. They get the growth. They get the new common shares. Again, they get the growth. But this brings up a really important point. We all know that businesses only go up in value. They never go down in value. Well, that's a facetious question. Society seems to have this built-in bias for longevity, and it's unintentional bias. I'm not painting an evil plot by accountants or attorneys to destroy family businesses. They're just oblivious. They're looking at the financial returns of a family business and they're thinking, why on earth would you ever sell this amazing investment? It's producing 20+% returns on an annual basis. That's way better than your investment account. So you have this built-in bias to keep these operating businesses and thrusting them into the hands of the often ill-prepared and reluctant heirs. Remember, every industry has a lifetime. Every industry runs its course. I'm sure the buggy whip operators, they had 20+% returns also, but they couldn't see what was coming on the horizon. You're not going to sell out when you're still at your peak value. Isn't that really what it should be about? Question number 3 is for Generation 2 only. Are you interested in buying stock and acquiring control? Yes or no? This is asking Generation number 2, how much do you really love this business? You may love your job, you may love your lifestyle, you may love your income, but you really want to buy stock in the business based on a third-party valuation. It's shocking how few next gens want to buy their parents' business. It's just not their dream. It's not their passion. Now, some actually do. Some are very hardworking, been in the business, well-educated, have their own ideas, and they're all in. This happens a lot in the farming industry. Some kids, they're really going to take that head start and they're going to buy into the family business. But I'll tell you, the vast majority, they don't want the ownership. They've watched what their parents have gone through and they just don't want the headaches. They want something different, or they've got a different passion. As you can see with the first 3 questions, we're diving right into the core message, which is, do you have a buyer and a seller in the house? Do you have someone who wants to sell? Do you have someone who wants to buy? Do you have a future transition plan? Again, no right or wrong answers here. All there is clarity. Grown-up adults getting together to make grown-up decisions. I believe these are 3 very wise questions, because if you can't answer yes to those questions and find alignment, you haven't mastered the problem. You haven't mastered the problem if you think that your business is going to be passed on to the next generation. They're disengaged. They're not interested in paying for it, and they're not interested in controlling it. If the answer to the first 3 questions are all no, I'll tell you, you got some major issues coming along here in the future. Moving on to question number 4. Do you understand and agree that in the interest of maximizing shareholder value, that this business can be sold to a third party at any time? First, let me kind of take a step back and make a very clear point. There's a lot of next gens who are answering question number 3, the previous question, saying, I'd like to buy stock in the business, but I'm young, I don't have a lot of money, I only got about $5,000 or $10,000. Can I buy just 1 or 2 shares, or even half or a quarter of a share of the business? The answer is yeah, you sure can. Buy into that business, get a dividend from that 1 or quarter of a share, and as time goes on, continue saving. Then you can buy 2 shares, buy 5 shares, buy 8 shares. Often the next gen purchasing their parents' business, it takes a long time. It's an extremely slow process. But what can happen right in the middle of that process is, I don't know, some major catastrophic worldwide event, some trauma to the business, you lose a major customer, you have foreign exchange problems, there's a fire, something big comes along, and both parties, Generation 1 and 2, agree they need to shift and they need to sell this business to a third party. This question is just getting people to acknowledge that even though I'm buying into the business, it can be sold to someone in the open market at a higher price. This is just business, folks. Cynical view is everything in this world has a price on it. For instance, someone may offer you far more money than you could ever imagine for your business. It's just a question of whether you want to agree to it or not. Do you want to do the deal? What would you do? The majority of us would be hard pressed to say no. But believe it or not, many business owners say no. They think their business is their legacy. In the meantime, their kids, they're not on the same page with them. It's just not in the business. We see this happening with cottages, other family possessions, where parents struggle to maintain them for the next generation, and the kids are like, hell, I don't want this. But if they insist on doing it, insist on giving it to me, well, I'll take it. With this question, you're opening communication and making sure that people do really want what you're offering them. Is it valuable? Let me ask you a question. Who is the founder of Coca-Cola? I bet you probably don't know. No one knows. No one cares. Yet Coca-Cola is the third most valuable consumer brand in the world. No one knows who the founder of Coca-Cola was. Shocking. Many business owners think their greatest work of art, their business, it's going to stand the test of time. It's going to be their legacy. I'm sorry, you have no idea. No one is going to remember Larry's Tool and Die. No one. On to question number 5. It's for Generation 1. I agree that within 60 days I will put in place a special compensation formula for Generation 2 in the event that the business is sold in the next 5 years. The answer to this question is crucial. Often business owners, they invite their children into the business and they effectively paint themselves into a corner. They have their family, their children getting a lifestyle and income from the business, and then the phone rings. It's an unsolicited offer from a third party or a competitor. How do you sell your business without feeling like you're selling your family down the river? What these questions are doing is getting people to understand the business, it's for sale all the time, as it should be. By joining this business, you are actually taking a risk, just as if you joined any other businesses out there. Any other business that can be sold at any time. There's nothing that gives a special dispensation to the family businesses that they won't be sold. So this question around compensation really says, can we align our interest? Can we align our interest? If we sell this business, it's not like mom and dad are getting rich and the kid loses their job. That happens. The business gets sold. How can you be compensated? Everybody. For business owners, this is critical. Because if you sell your business and you've got your children in key positions of authority or responsibility, and you don't have something like this in place, often kids, they just bolt for the door. There's no management left. And then the buyer, they just take the money from escrow. You, the seller, you don't get your full entitlement. And the family gets broken, distressed, and it's never going to be repaired. You can see this question around compensation in the context of the sale of the business is not addressed. One of two things happens. Business number 1 doesn't get sold, or number 2, if it does get sold, it's complete and utter disaster. The transition in the hands of the new owner, it's a disaster, and the owner, he doesn't get his full share price. That happens. It happens all the time. We've heard horror stories of the kids saying, well, I've got nothing. New management comes in and you want me to stick around? Then the dad or the mom are like, you got to stay there, because if you don't, I'm going to lose $500,000 to $1 million in escrow. The kid says, who cares? I'm not getting any of it. These conflicts are extremely real. Let's move on to question 6. As a fundamental principle, I understand that from time to time, we will receive unsolicited offers from a third party to acquire the business. These offers will be considered and accepted at the discretion of the controlling shareholder and supported by the key employee or child at its generation number 2. The thought behind this question is to remind next gens who are purchasing their parents' business, don't hesitate. Every day, every month, every year that goes by that you don't have majority voting control, the business is in the marketplace. It's effectively open to other offers. This question holds the next gen's feet to the fire. It gets them to recognize, even though they're buying into the business, can be sold to someone else at any time. If and when that happens, don't be shocked. All this is trying to do is speed up an internal sale, and it should. Frankly, everybody has to be on the same page. Otherwise, well, you got problems. A lot of this is almost like prenuptial thinking or partnership level thinking. Solve these problems before you have the problems. That's it. Let's start with an open and clean slate. That's just smart business. Question 7 is, I will prepare for the annual update of this blueprint and arrange for an updated valuation of the business, and will calculate whether there is an appropriate amount of insurance in place. I will furnish evidence that this has been done and the estate taxes will not impair the ability of this corporation to function after my death. Now, if I don't get a phone call from every insurance advisor in the country thanking me for this question, but you know what? It's shocking how cheap business owners are when it comes to ensuring the retained earnings, the equity in their business. Let me walk through an example with you. A male business owner dies, because guys usually die first. The business shares go to the surviving spouse or the mom. Let's assume that there's no shareholder agreement, no minority shareholders. Shares go to mom or the spouse. It's very common, again, in the farming sector and in family businesses. Manufacturing, this is huge problems in manufacturing. Shares, again, go to the surviving spouse. She dies a couple of years later because she's been trying to run the business. She doesn't have the relationships with the lenders, the suppliers, and the customers. So when a lot of the key employees see this happen, they bolt. They bolt for their door. They're nervous about their futures. Now the business fails after mom dies and the shares go down to the kids. 50% probability there's no will. So now the provincial formula or the state kicks in, forcing all the children, whether you're in the business or not, is equal partners. But there is good news. They get a free business. They get a free business from the last to survive. Last parent dies, all the shares go to the kids in equal amounts, and they get a letter from the IRS. And the letter says, you owe this massive, massive tax burden. The father or the founder's original shares are worth $1. Fast forward to today. Business owners who are watching this video, what's your current share price? If you can't answer that question, you don't know how much capital gains exposure you've got. Maybe not you, but your children. Where do the kids go for the cash to pay the tax on these holdings? I'll tell you, they reach into the corporation for free cash flow to pay the tax bill. It's not there. The business fails. Then you've got headlines in the local newspaper. The business has failed. And all of us, we rush to the judgment that all the next gens that took over, they're lazy spendthrifts. They're probably millennials. They have no drive. They blew up their parents' business. Drives me crazy. It's not the millennials' fault. The responsibility for that transition plan, that was with you, the business owner. You just don't give a damn. You say, you know what, it's expensive. Expensive compared to what? You're still going to pay a fraction of the total bill, especially given the way the tax code works today surrounding corporately owned insurance policies. If you do this right and you're paying a fraction, I've had business owners say, well, the kids can just suck it up, pay out of the cash flow for a couple of years. I'm thinking, you're going to really put that burden on your kids? You're going to take away 100% of the free cash flow of the company for 5 years? And that's just assuming nothing goes wrong. To pay out for a deceased person? I don't know about you, but especially if I'm the one who passed away and this is a partnership, I want my family members, I want my side of the family to get their cash the second I die. I don't want to wait 5 years to receive the entire payout. I understand there's business risk. Sadly, most business owners, they don't have family meetings. They don't walk through the scenario of their death. All of this is being revealed while the family and the siblings are grieving the loss of their last parent. Only takes one of the kids or one of the heirs to lawyer up. And you can see why many family businesses are ending up in court fighting over the estate. Kids outside the business want their cash. Kids outside the business saying, I don't have the cash to pay. I can't pay you anything out. Here we go again. And then we wonder why only 30% of family businesses survive to the second generation. I'm probably the only person in Ohio that's talking about how temporary and fragile businesses are. I think over the past year, everyone would be talking about it. Doesn't matter if you've had a great 30-year run. There's no guarantee the next 30 years will be anything like the previous 30 years. I believe right now the time is right to jump into the lion's den and let's blow up a lot of these myths. It's not your job as a family business owner to gift your business to the kids and perpetuate your legacy. That's just garbage. It's nonsense. It's silly and it shouldn't happen. Let's go on to question number 8. List at least 3 items in each of the following 4 categories that could affect the health of your business over the next 5 years. Basically, what we're doing here is a SWOT analysis. There's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Obviously, I didn't invent the process. It's a great little exercise, though, for family businesses to do. Parent and child go through the SWOT analysis. What's always interesting is the strengths and opportunities. Person who's got less risk will have a much longer list of strengths and opportunities. The aging business owner, they can see the weakness and the threats to the business much clearer. Well, they got much more to lose. It's funny to see the looks on their faces when the parent and the child, they compare the list of strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Frankly, this should be happening on a regular basis anyways. It's part of regular business planning. But typically, it just doesn't happen. On to question number 9. To secure our future prosperity together, should we either A, continue to run the business and invest more money in our company, or B, practically pursue the sale of our company? This is for all the shareholders in the business. So as you know, you can fund growth of a business through basically one of 2 ways, debt or equity. By the way, money, capital, it's just the blood. It's the blood of a business. If you're starting a business of capital, it's not going to grow. If a business doesn't grow, shocking newsflash, it's going to shrink. I bump into this disturbingly more times than I would like to admit. Number of business owners, particularly ones in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, they think, like my business exactly the way it is. I don't want to get any bigger. I don't want to get any smaller. Well, you ever step on a scale? Is it ever exactly the same day after day? I tell you, I fluctuate. World changes around you. There's an old saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. Let me say that again. If you're not growing, you're dying. And it's hard because, it can be a really, really slow drip to the bottom. You heard the old joke about bankruptcy. How's it happen? Slowly, then all at once. You can see this question. It's just really getting at, do you have enough confidence in the business to take profits and put them back into the business? Or are you going to take on new debt? The answer is no. You don't need a consultant to tell you you should get your business ready for sale. You got all the information in the world you need. You just express a lack of confidence to recap your business. It's not a public declaration that you failed in the business. It says you're a wise person. And you've got the earliest sign that as the definitive controlling shareholder, it's time to start packing your bags and getting the business ready to sell and to leave. Now, question 10. Within 60 days of completing this blueprint, we will complete a salary and bonus compensation review for the child or key employee. In most businesses, there are annual salary and bonus reviews for all employees. But in a family business, they'll do it for everyone but people in the family. It's like, oh no, this is just going to end badly. We're not going to talk about money. I'll tell you right now, in family businesses, there's virtually an equal percentage of children that are underpaid as overpaid. We all think the kids that work in family businesses, they're just lucky, overpaid, and underworked. It's what Warren Buffett called the lottery of the womb. Listen, there's an exploitation in family businesses. There are a lot of kids that are working for below market rates, working and doing and taking on some big, big super responsibilities beyond what they ought to be doing. And no one knows how to talk about it. The kids have confidence to raise their compensation is concerned to their parents. You know what they're often told? Just relax. Just calm down. Don't worry. This is all going to be yours one day. Or, you got to earn it. I struggled for so long. If you want a cushy job paying X numbers of dollars, go somewhere else. I encounter this all the time. It's like they've got it in their mind that they've struggled to get to a certain point, They don't see their kids struggling in the same way. But their kids are doing all the work and being underpaid for the market rate. This is a tricky, tricky subject. Often, when kids complain to their parents about their salaries, the parents just shut down the conversation. The parents and the kids, they mix income with equity. It is the most naive and innocent thing to do. Tell me, how are you going to reel those words back in and unpromise the free ownership of that business to your kids, Mr. Business Owner? My message is kids need salary reviews. And in the next couple of questions that are coming up, we're going to deal with performance reviews and job descriptions. They need those things too. They need the professionalization of the family business. If you don't have them, you start taking shortcuts with equity, and it's a complete and utter disaster. Question number 11. I agree to conduct an annual performance review of the child or key employee. This review will measure performance against mutually agreed and achievable goals and objectives. New goals and objectives will be set every coming year. Basically, it's a standard performance review and not taking anybody for granted. So if you're not having performance reviews for your family members, then you're leaving your children in a performance vacuum. What kid's going to go out and borrow money from a bank to buy their parents' business? And they feel like a failure in the business. They've never gotten any feedback on their performance. And to further that, how are they ever going to believe that they're living up to the expectations of the parent? The question around compensation and everything else we just discussed, a lot of them are linked to feedback and mechanisms. You look at any HR survey, and basically one of the top things that employees want is feedback. It's no different for your own family. Now, we're on to the final question of the 12 questions. Within 60 days of completing this blueprint, I will present an up-to-date job description to all family members or key employees working in the business that clearly describes their duties and responsibilities. This will include an up-to-date organizational chart. Family members and key employees working in the company will adhere to the company's policies and procedures. Basically, just a simple job description. You got a lot of family members who join the family business, and again, they take on all the work, responsibility, and legacy of the owner, even though their job is accounts payable or sales. Maybe they're just doing something in the back shop. It's weird, I don't know. The expectations for the family members to take on extra responsibilities and to not be compensated or acknowledged or a bump up in title, it's a big, big, big problem. In many cases, the family members, they take on these responsibilities and they don't even understand why they're doing it, other than they're working for the family. They're working for the family pride and honor and reputation in the community of the family business that mom and dad or grandma and grandpa have built up. The job description is crucial. It says, listen, if we're going to professionalize this family business and treat families no better or no worse, but with the same kind of rigor and professionalism as any other person in this business, you need a job description. And here it is. It's written in black and white. This is just the one thing that a lot of smaller or medium-sized family businesses, they end up sometimes the professional structures, they aren't put in place. If they had these structures, it'd solve all these conflicts. I encourage you to professionalize your business. This is a very valuable tool set, because when you go to sell your business, guess what? The more professional it looks, the better it runs. The higher the valuation, it's valuable not just from a succession planning point of view, but also, I'd say, a valuation maximization standpoint. I'll tell you, when buyers are doing their due diligence, some of the things that they ask for, they're not just financials. They're looking for organizational charts. They're looking at 3 years of job descriptions. They're looking at 3 years of performance reviews. They want them right then. If you don't have them readily available, you're not going to get a premium sale price for your business. Don't be the crappy, disorganized, unprofessional Fred Sanford type business. If you want top dollar, and you and I both know that's where you make your money in the business, it's on the way out. It's not really along the way. It's on the way out. It's when you sell the business. It's getting a multiple of free cash flow in one moment. It's when the business owner understands that, then they will have a much better exit. If you're not organized by the time you're ready to sell, good luck. I have never run across anyone who wants to buy a disorganized company and clean up somebody else's mess. Congratulations to you. We're finally at the end. As you can see, these are some tough questions that a family business has probably never tackled before. I recommend you go through these 12 questions every year with key employees or family members that are involved and also not involved in your business. You'll be amazed at how the answers change on an annualized basis. These answers to these questions form kind of what I like to call the family blueprint. It helps you tackle some of the delicate issues that don't get discussed in family business situations. It's not about leaving any issues that just slide under the carpet. It's about bringing them all to the surface and understanding where everyone's aspirations are, finding out, is everybody on the same page, or do we have conflicts and problems? And then thinking, what might happen in the future? Where's this family business going? I hope this information adds value to your family's business and leads you to take action, averting disaster to monetizing and succeeding in your business the way you should.